Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to another fishing report. As far as I can figure it, guys, we are about 75 to 80 days away from early ice. So if you are thinking about getting out ice fishing early, get in contact with those resorts, get in contact with those guides, start booking your stuff up, because I know December and January is really starting to fill up. And with that being said, let's dive right into this week's fishing report. All right, this past week I was up on Mille Lacs Lake. We did really good on the walleyes and got some really nice perch mixed in. We were fishing rocks in that 20 to 22 feet of water. We were still able to find leeches, so we were fishing slip bobbers with leeches and did really well on nice walleyes, and we were even able to put 3 in the live well. Now, as far as the best areas to find walleyes right now out on Mille Lacs Lake, rocks in that 18 to 24 feet of water over on the west and northwest side have been really good. There are still some fish on the mud flats and the deeper gravel, which there's always going to be those few fish out there. Some of the other really good areas right now, deep weed lines all around the lake, that 10 to 14 feet of water, there are walleyes up in those weeds, and they are tending to be really big. Now, with the fall patterns, a lot of those walleyes were starting to move up onto the shallow rock. These warm temps have kind of slowed that down. The fish that have already moved up there, they seem to still be hanging out on those shallow rocks, but not a lot of new fish moving up in as of right now. Now, like usual, guys, the best ways to catch walleyes out on Mille Lacs Lake: slip bobber and a leech. Leeches are getting hard to come by. I've been picking up medium-sized leeches. Those seem to be working even better than those bigger leeches. I've been getting mine at Prince Bait and Marine, Tuts Bait and Tackle. There's some gas stations in Onamia that have them as well. You just got to call around and find some bait shops that still have those leeches. Now, other ways people are catching them: trolling crankbaits in 17 to 22 feet of water on lead core. Number 5 shad wraps have been working very well. Perch colored, chrome and blue, purple iridescent has been working well also. Now, as the fall patterns progress, jig and minnow bite, those will start to pick up. Not a ton of guys throwing those jigs and minnows yet. I personally think it's a little bit early, but that will be starting here soon. Now, as far as the perch bite goes out on Mille Lacs Lake, the perch have tended to be really nice this year. We've been getting them anywhere from 10 to 14 inches, getting those on the slip bobber and leeches as well, along with half a night crawler. Now, the areas to find those perch, it seems like there are quite a few areas where you can find those. They're getting them out on the mud flats. They're getting them on the deep gravel. I know over on the southeast side, they're getting them on Pope's, Highway, Banana, out on 4 and 5 mile as well. And then over on the west and northwest side, they're getting them on those rocks in that 17 to 24 feet of water. Now, as far as the muskie bite goes out on Mille Lacs Lake, the muskies have been very active out there as of late. Deep weed lines and those deep water basins by the Tullibee schools. In the fall here, all of those Tullibees are going to start congregating on rock structures, and those muskies are going to follow them, and that is where you are going to need to target those big muskies. If you don't have live scope, pulling crankbaits, trolling around, those are some of the best methods to run across those big muskies. If you do have live scope, throwing big glide baits and rubber baits is working very well. Now, as far as pike fishing goes, deep weed lines are key for those big pike right now. Trolling big crankbaits, spinner baits, casting bucktails at them is working as well, and they are getting some really nice big pike right now. Now, as far as the bass bite goes, the bass bite has started to slow down pretty significantly, I would say. They are still getting some of those in that 8 to 14 feet of water on those rocks. They do tend to be a little bit smaller. If you bump out deeper on those deeper rocks in that 14 to 22 feet of water, they're getting some really big bass mixed in. A lot of guys are getting them while fishing walleyes with a slip bobber, leech, and crawler. But otherwise a drop shot and Ned rig is still working. Now, if you guys are looking for a place to stay up on Mille Lacs Lake, Castles Resort, they do have cabins available this coming weekend and the remainder of this fall. They also have pontoon rentals. They're running their launch services. Make sure you go ahead, give them a call, and get a spot booked on their launch before just showing up. But otherwise, if you're looking to get up to Mille Lacs Lake and enjoy some time on the water, go ahead and call Jeff or Kimberly from Castles Resort. All right, now moving over to Lake Winnie. The walleye bite thankfully has started to pick back up. Those walleyes are still tending to be up in that shallower water. If it's overcast and a little bit windy, that 6 to 9 feet of water has been producing the majority of the fish. If it's calm and sunny, bump out a little bit deeper, that 10 to 16 feet of water on break lines is producing some really nice fish on those calm, sunny days. Now, the best ways to catch those fish, pulling spinners with a fathead is working very well. You can mix in some crawlers as well, but the minnows are definitely outshining the crawlers as of right now. Now, some other ways to catch those walleyes, snap jigging is working very well. Some guys are pulling crankbaits in the evening and after dark, and that bite is really starting to pick up. So if you want to pull some crankbaits, those number 4 and 5 shad wraps or flicker shads are working very well in crawfish, perch, and purple iridescent. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, it seems like the perch have been very dependent on the wind. They do not like it flat calm. So if you got a little bit of wind, the North End or Tamarack Bay has been producing some really nice perch in that 9 to 12 feet of water. Best ways to catch those are getting them on spinners with fatheads. Otherwise, pitching a jig and minnow is working as well. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes, the crappies and bluegills are starting to show back up in on those weed lines and reeds in the bay. Some guys last week even were running into some bluegills up to 12 inches. So if you want to get out on Lake Winnie and catch yourself a trophy bluegill, now is the time to get up there, search those weed lines and reeds, pitch a small jig and a crawler or a slip bobber with a chunk of a crawler, and you might come across some absolute giant bluegill. Now, as far as the crappies go, the crappies are mixed in with the bluegills. Best way to catch those crappies, a jig and a minnow. Some guys are using plastics and those are working as well, but the minnow is definitely outshining those plastics. Now, as far as the muskie bite goes, the muskies have been extremely active out on Lake Winnie. Bucktails are working best. Black bucktails in particular. They're fishing the east and west sides of the lake right now. Tamarack Point and Battle Point over in Big Cutfoot are two of the go-to areas. But cover water, if you move a fish, mark it, circle back during those peak times during the majors and minors, and you might get those fish to bite. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide out on Lake Winnie, Zups Guide Service is the premier walleye guide out on Lake Winnie. He does not have a ton of availability left for this open water season, but just a reminder, guys, he will be renting out his ice castles this coming winter. He has a great ice fishing operation out there. If you want to catch some walleyes and perch, get in contact with him. Those dates are starting to fill up. So get something booked and enjoy yourself some ice fishing out on Lake Winnie. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay, the Pines Resort, they have cabins, campsites, full bar and restaurant, fish cleaning shack, live bait. They are taking ice fishing reservations as of now. So if you want to get something on the books, get up there yet this fall or book something for ice fishing season, go ahead, give Chad a call at the Pines Resort. All right, now moving over to Leech Lake. The fall patterns were really starting to shine out on Leech Lake, but with this heat wave, it has really slowed that down. Now that doesn't mean the fish aren't biting, but they are definitely scattered. Now, with these warmer temps, you can still find some of those fish out in the mud. You can find them on those deeper weed lines, but the majority of the fish that are feeding right now are up in those shallow weed lines, the milfoil, the coontail, and those sand grass flats. Best ways to catch walleyes right now: a jig and a minnow or half a crawler. Agency Bay, Walker Bay, Bear Island, those are some good areas to start looking. And mixed in with those walleyes in those same areas has been a really good jumbo perch bite, and they are catching those the same exact way. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes, the bluegills and crappies, they're still finding those on those deeper weed lines and reed lines. A jig and a minnow or plastic for the crappies. Otherwise, a slip bobber with a chunk of a crawler is working well for those bluegill. Now, as far as the smallmouth bass bite goes, Walker Bay has been producing some really nice smallmouth bass. Look for those rock piles in that 10 to 18 feet of water. Drop shot, Ned rig. Some of the shallower waters are getting them on jerk baits. But the smallmouth bass bite is really starting to pick up out on Leech Lake. Now, as far as the muskies go, the muskies are still pushed up onto those shallow structures, anywhere from 5 to 12 feet of water, shallow rocks, shallow weed lines. They're chasing a lot of those big schools of perch around, so if you have something to imitate some perch, that might be a good bet as of right now. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide out on Leech Lake Guide Team LLC, they do still have some openings for this fall. They will be running some jumbo perch trips along with walleye trips in late September and early October. So if you want to get in on some of those, go ahead, give them a call, look them up on Facebook or their website, and get something on the books. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay up on Leech Lake, Horseshoe Bay Lodge, they have cabins, condos, hotel rooms, full bar and restaurant, whatever you could ask for. I did talk to Cam earlier today. They do have cabins and hotel rooms available for this coming weekend and throughout the fall. So if you're looking to get up to Leech Lake for some dynamite fall fishing, go ahead and give Cam or Courtney a call from Horseshoe Bay Lodge. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Really appreciate all the support this open water season. If you guys could, go down, hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it. If you guys make it out fishing, send us some pictures over on Facebook. Remember to be kind at the boat ramps, be respectful of other fishermen, and most importantly, don't forget to get on out there and get living.